every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every. We welcome you all in the Shankar Lodge Delhi meeting this Saturday evening. Today, our Lodge Secretary, Dr. Rajiv Gupta, is taking the topic on astral plane and the astral body, part 7. He has already taken earlier 6 parts on the said subject, which were very, very nice. And now it may be seventh or last, maybe one more. I don't know exactly. It will depend how much will be covered today. I will like to tell about Dr. Rajiv Gupta. He is a member of Shankar Lodge, New Delhi. He is currently the secretary of the Shankar Lodge. He joined the Theosophical Society in 1989. He became a life member in the year 2005. He served on the post of President of Delhi Federation and Shankar Lodge on multiple occasions. He has participated in and conducted the study camps in Delhi. Professionally, he is working as chest specialist in ESIC Hospital, New Delhi. Now, without taking any more time, I now request Dr. Rajiv Gupta to please continue the last 6 parts as he has already taken on the astral plane and the astral body. Please, Dr. Rajiv Gupta.
नमस्कार बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माथुर जी थैंक यू वेरी मच so friends after a long time we are going to take the seventh part so it is possible some of the things or some of the concepts that we had covered previously may have been lost or to our memory. So I will try to recall just a few important points and then go on to the main topic itself, which will be the astral body. In the earlier 6 parts, we had touched upon the astral plane and covered almost the whole of the astral plane, the book by Brother C.W. Leadbeater. Except for the phenomena of the astral plane, we had covered quite a lot in detail of the book that he had given to us, the astral plane. Now, today we would like to go over the astral body. The astral body itself is a big topic and it might not be covered today, but I will try to give the important points so that we can, with our own studies, try to go deeper. Otherwise, it may take another 6 to 7 sessions just to cover the astral body also. The astral body is there in Theosophical Society as a book by Arthur E. Powell, and it's a wonderful book. I would suggest all of you. This is the book, The Astral Body. I would suggest all of you who are interested in this to have a physical copy if possible. Otherwise, soft copies are available freely online. Those who want the e-copy, the e-book, they can contact me or Mathurji. We can send them by email. Now, let's start. I have a project. So now here we are. For those who are new or those to whom this topic is not clear, I will just recapitulate the concept of man, a human being, and his various bodies. In theosophy, we call the man or human being as the mind or the Jivatma, and he has a set of bodies. bodies that a human being has are Atmic body, Buddhic body, and cosmic body. These three form a group which we call the higher self or the ego. Then there are a set of three bodies: the mental body, the astral body, and the physical body. These three we together form a group and we call it as the lower self or personality. In each life, in each incarnation, we get a new set of these lower bodies: the mental body, the astral body, and the physical body. These three bodies are well connected, interpenetrating each other, and they function as one unit. So when I think of myself as the body, and also when I think of myself as a mind, then in the mind part, I'm actually in the mind part, I'm actually combining both the astral and the mental bodies. So when an average person says I am the body and I have a mind, then the mind is actually a combination of the astral body and mental body function. This is how we can think of it as when we think in terms of average person thinking about it. But when we go deeper and into the details, then we find those who are able to investigate that actually the mind is made up of these two parts called the astral body and the mental body. Furthermore, if somebody could go much more deeper, would be able to then see the causal body, the body, and the atmic body, and thereby further going could reach the moon. And that is what is our goal. In our Sanatan Dharma, we have been told about the Annamaya Kosh, the Manomaya Kosh, Pranmaya Kosh, Vijnanmaya Kosh, Anandamaya Kosh, like that. So they have, in their own way, classified the various vehicles of Jiva. In Theosophy, we have classified in this way. We'll go further. And we see in Theosophy, we say that there are, in the material side of nature, the matter made in various densities. So when we understand density, we think in terms of solid, liquid, gas, something which is very solid. The atoms are compact, lying together. Liquid, they are much more further. In the gas, they are much more further apart. Also, the size decreases. But in Theosophy, we say there are 49 such levels of gradations of matter. These 49 levels of matter, we call them as subplanes in Theosophy. And these 49 are grouped in 7 groups. So we have 7 groups of 7 subplanes. So first group we call physical. It has 7 subgroups, which we have in which we have solid, liquid, gas, etheric, superetheric, subatomic, and atomic. These are the 7 gradations of matter in the physical group, or we call it in Theosophy as physical plane or the physical world. Then we go on to the subtler level of matter to the physical plane, and that we call the astral world, astral plane, astral matter. It also has 7 subplanes. All these subplanes are also divided as per the density into 7 parts. So they are the 7 subplanes. Similarly in mental, similarly in buddhic, similarly in nirvanic or atmic, similarly in paranirvanic or anupadak or the monadic, and then the divine or the mahaparanirvanic or the divine or the adi. So these are the 7 big groups, big worlds, lokas, in which there are 7 types of subplanes. I hope it is clear to the new members who are attending today. And for the older ones, I don't think they are having any problem regarding this. If there is any issue, uh, please stop me and ask me about this. Now, each human being has at the center, at the physical level, a physical body. which is the smallest body of the human being, or the smallest vehicle of the human being. In and around it is the astral body. In and around both of these is the mental. In and around all the three is the causal, then the buddhic, then the atmic, and then finally we have the jivatma, which is the consciousness, which is containing all of these. So this is another way of looking at the human being. Now, with this introduction, let's go further and see something more what C.W. Leadbeater has said. In the last paragraph here, where my mouse pointer is there, the student should thoroughly familiarize himself with this fundamental conception, as without grasping it clearly, it is not possible to understand large numbers of astral phenomena. Now, what is it that one should, the student, we are all students, what is it that we should familiarize ourselves? What is the fundamental conception? And this is what he has given in the top two paragraphs. Apart from what we have just read about the matter being divided into different levels based on their densities, their grossness or subtlety, we have to see another thing. And what is that another thing? That each subtler matter is interpenetrating the grosser matter. So here it is written in the top, astral matter is obviously finer than physical matter. And because it is so fine that our physical eyes and our skin, that is the sense organs on the physical body, cannot perceive the astral matter. It is so fine. Even air, if the air is not moving, then also we are unable to appreciate air. What to talk about astral matter? Astral matter is much more finer than even the air that we have around us. So the astral matter being much finer than physical matter interpenetrates it. What does this mean? It means that every physical atom is floating in a sea of astral matter which surrounds it, meaning each physical atom is surrounded by the astral matter. Now we know that in physics we have been told that two atoms in the physical world are far apart. In fact, they are so far apart that what is in between these two atoms is what scientists have loosely called ether. But in theosophy, we say that the whole of the space is actually tightly compacted with matter. So we know that these subtler matters material is there inside or in between the physical matter. And this is what he wants us to understand, that all the material that we have just talked about, the physical matter, astral matter, mental matter, buddhic matter, and atmic matter, all these materials that we have talked about, they are present right now here itself. They are these lokas, all the different lokas, the Pu loka, the Bhua loka, the Swa, all these lokas are there not somewhere else but here. All these lokas are together, they are interpenetrating. So thus a being living in astral world might be occupying the same space as a being living in the physical world. So right now, where we are sitting in the physical world, there is astral world also around us. And the beings in the astral world, which we have talked earlier in the previous 6 talks, all those beings are currently present right now, right here with us. though we cannot see them, though we cannot communicate with them in the way we communicate with each other. Yet they are occupying the same space as we are. Yet each would be entirely unconscious of the other and would in no way impede the free movement of the other. Now, friends, if there is, I'm going to go a little bit fast. If there are any questions on this, if this is not understood, please stop and ask me. But it should be related only to what I am talking about right now. So, what is it that is required to perceive and investigate this matter or these different lokas which are present right now here? What do we do to perceive them? Do we have to go somewhere to be able to see astral matter, astral people, astral things? No. There is no movement in space which is necessary, but only an opening within ourselves of the senses by means of which they can be perceived. What does it mean? That our consciousness should become unfolded more. The ability of the consciousness to perceive has to be increased. Only then we will be able to perceive, see them, interact with them. And that is the method of yoga, so called. If I were just to put it in one word, then yoga, meaning that our ability to open up the various hidden powers within us, only then we will be able to do what these people whose books we are reading, C.W. Leadbeater and Epperson, they did the same thing, and we then also would be able to do the same. So it is not a movement in space that is required to see these various lokas or to be in these various lokas, but rather a change within ourselves which is required. This is an important point which they are trying to tell us. Then one more thing about astral matter is that astral matter corresponds to the physical matter in a way that whenever there is a physical matter, there will be a corresponding astral matter. Meaning, if I have a pen with me, solid pen, then there will be in the astral world also an astral pen, just corresponding to that astral pen. Meaning, there will be a copy of that solid physical matter in the astral world as well. So each material, each body, everything that we see in the physical world has an astral counterpart, because the way in which the solar system has been built, it has been built from above downwards or from within outwards, so that the physical plane was built in the last, the physical world was built in the last step. The earlier steps included the the construction of the various different subtler material worlds, and finally the physical world was formed. Therefore, whenever a body is made in the physical world, its subtler bodies or its bodies in subtler matter have already been created. Now, if it is confusing, we can drop this matter, we can drop this point, and then we can go further. Maybe later in the question and answer, we can go over it if it is not clear. Now, the here one more thing is to be seen, that the astral body of a man not only permeates the physical body but also extends around it in every direction like a cloud. That is because the astral body is larger in size than the physical body. Similarly, the mental body is also larger in size than the astral and physical bodies. I showed this figure here. The physical body is the smallest, then this oval shape here is the astral body. It is within the physical as well as without. So this is what they mean. That portion of the astral body which extends beyond the limits of the physical body is usually termed as the astral aura. Aura means a halo, something which is projecting outside the central figure. So if I could see the physical body and I could see the astral body also together, then what would I see? That the part of the astral body which is extending beyond the physical body, to that I would give the term astral aura. And if I could see the mental body, then I would say the part which is beyond the physical body, which includes the astral body beyond the physical plus the mental body beyond that, we will call as the mental aura. Now, the matter of the physical body has a very strong attraction for the matter of the astral body, so that the astral body, the major part, 99% of the astral body material is concentrated within the frame of the physical body. I will make it clear further, but let us just try to understand it. The astral body is larger than the physical body overall, but the majority of the matter of the astral body is located within the frame of the physical body. Another point to be considered here is that the astral particles are moving constantly throughout the astral body. They are not fixed in one place. Like in physical body, we have the matter which is fixed. Like if I have a finger, the bones of the fingers are fixed. Everything is probably is fixed. It's not that my nail is moving, my finger is moving, and someday tomorrow it will be at the point of my neck. So, but in the astral body, the matter of the astral body is moving, circulating throughout the astral body constantly. So, this is an important point which will be considered a little bit later, because it is related with the perception or the sense organs within the astral body. The sense organs within the astral body are not like those as they are in the physical body. In the astral body, there are no astral eyes like we have the physical eyes, or ears or nose like this. Nothing of that sort is there in the astral body. Now, let's just have a brief look at the cycle of incarnation. Again, for those who are new to this concept, in each incarnation, in each life, that which we call the higher self, which is attached to the monad, that higher self or the ego, from it the impulse arises and it takes up or connects itself or builds up or sends its reflection or energy down towards the mental plane, and there makes what is called the mental body around the permanent atom which is connected to it. Then further, this process continues and the movement goes down to the astral plane, and there astral body is created. So what is happening is, first, before when the incarnation new cycle starts, the ego or the higher self, which is present within the causal body, it builds the mental body, then it builds the astral body, and then finally it takes up the physical body. Once the physical body is taken and the birth of the physical body takes place, we say that a new life has started. But before even that life has started or birth has taken place, behind the scenes, mental body and astral body were created and they were attached to this physical body. And this is how a triple body structured personality was born. So when we were born, all of us were born, we were already with the physical body, were having an astral body and a mental body. We are a complex of these three bodies, even though we are not conscious of the astral and the mental body. At the time of death of the physical body, the first death takes place, and then we say that the person has died. What happens then? Just there is a death of the physical body. And along with the physical body, of course, within the physical body, I'm also talking about the etheric body. So this is a death in which both the physical body and the etheric body, which is a part of the etheric body being a part of the physical body, they die. Or in other words, this consciousness which was holding or keeping it alive leaves the physical body permanently. And when it leaves the physical body, we say that the physical body has died. If in case it does not leave the physical body permanently, then we say either the person is unconscious due to some reason, like a disease, or is in a coma, or when every night when we sleep, we leave the physical body, and then in the morning when we wake up, we come back to the physical body. So this consciousness, if it is gone permanently from the physical body, then we call it death. After some time, a second death takes place, is when the astral body is also left behind permanently by this consciousness, which we call the ego, and it is there in the cosmic body or the higher self. Then a third death takes place when we even leave the mental body, and that is the point at which we say that the incarnation or this life cycle has ended. So this is the way in which one life cycle takes place, and we say that all of us, of course, we go through this. So this is how Theosophy tells us the whole process of a single life cycle. Now, with this introduction, now let us jump into the astral body and the structure and composition of the astral body. What we see here, what we see here is from the book Man, Visible and Invisible. It's a wonderful book by Brother C.W. Leadbeater, and all those who are interested in this topic should read it. It is again freely available online, and those who want it can search for it, or else they can take it from us, from Mathurji or from myself. We can email to you. Here is a figure which C.W. Leadbeater inspired the artist to make, and this is the astral body of the average moral and intellectual man. Just to give us an idea, of course, because we can't see, only a few people can see, those who have the Divya Drishti or the clairvoyance, only they can see. So, just to help the theosophical students and other people who are interested in this, he brought out this book and he has given uh, this picture, made this picture, and for us to understand what would be like to see the astral body if we could see it. Of course, he says that this can never represent the actuality, just like a photograph of us can't tell about a living person. It can only give, it's a small image, a symbol, but still it does make us recognize that person if we ever meet that person in real life. So in that same way, a photograph in the physical world, in our world, we use that photograph uh, to recognize, to symbolize, to find out, to see, to get an idea of the another person or another place. In the same way, he has given us this structure, a series of pictures in which he tells us how the astral body looks like in the astral world. Now, this is what he has said that more or less he has divided the human beings into three categories. One is the savage or the uncultured, uncivilized. The second is the average, and the third is the developed person. The developed person being a person who is approaching the path of holiness, approaching the path of yoga, and will become soon the adept or jivan mukta. The average person would appear more or less like this, according to C.W. Leadbeater, in which he says, as we can see here, that in the central part of the ovoid, this is ovoid. Ovoid means oval structure. A circle is complete circle, and this is oval structure. In between, in the center of this oval structure, is the figure of a human being. You can see a figure of a human being, figure of a man. This is the person who is having a physical body, of whose astral body has been drawn. So this person who is the physical person, let us call him person A. So this person A, if I were to see him, I would see this person in the physical plane or the physical world with this figure as we see each other. But if I could see both the physical as well as the astral body, then I would see this. I would see this central structure as well as I would see this. If I could see only the astral body and not the physical body, then also I would see the structure, because majority of the astral matter is located within the structure. So the outline would be very, very clear like this. And yet there will be a halo or an aura like this, which is around this central structure. Now this person, we can see that this ovoid is extending, as they are saying, about 18 inches beyond the physical frame. So in an average person, we say in theosophical books that the average person's astral body extends be 18 inches beyond the physical plane, physical body. So if I have my arm 1.5 feet away from this, will be the approximate area that my astral body will be extending. This is for an average person. If for some reason I have an emotional day, or I am in heavy, deep, intense emotional state, then the astral body will expand much, much more further, because it will gather more and more material from outside and it will enlarge itself. But for an average balanced person who is normal, who is not very emotional, but in his normal state, mental state, it will be about 18 inches. Then we can see that there are that it is having a lot of colors, and we will talk about the various colors. We can see that if the astral body has a sharp outline, we can see that the colors are quite well demarcated, and we can see the various bands of these colors, and we can see that these that the we'll go further and then we'll see. Now this is the astral body of an undeveloped person, a savage. Savage meaning a person who has just come out of the animal incarnation and is not very much cultured or civilized. The astral body here is not organized, meaning it is not well formed. It, you can see there is hardly any clear outline. The colors are all muddled up. The colors are very dull to those who can see them, and the person is, as they have written, it is cloudy, loosely organized, vaguely outlined, and it is gross, dark in color, dense, so dense that the physical body can hardly be seen within, and it is fitted to respond to stimuli connected with passions and appetites only. In size, also it is small, and it extends in all directions of the physical body to about 10 to 12 inches beyond the physical body. That is all. So this is about the undeveloped person. Then we see, in the case of a developed person who is approaching the spiritual path, or is almost at the spiritual path, for such a person, the astral body is larger than the 18 inches that we talked about, and it is composed of fine particles of each grade of astral matter, The matter of this astral body is made up of higher or subtler types of matter which respond only to nobler emotions. So here we see that at the top of the astral body here, there is a strip of lilac, violetish color. This indicates spiritual aspiration. As well as we can see where the physical head of the person is, there is a big halo of yellowish color extending. This indicates intellectual development of this person. Then this blue color here on this side, actually because it is a two dimensional photograph, but if we could take it as a three-dimensional structure, this yellow part would be covering the whole. This blue part would be covering the whole all throughout. So this blue part indicates the devotional side. So it's a well-developed devotion also is there. He has developed devotion to a considerable extent. The reddish band right in the middle, it indicates love or affection, the ability of the love and affection, quite well developed. And in the lower part, we have a lot of green, which shows adaptability, tact. The person is able to um, find sympathy with others. So we find that how many colors are there which are predominant? One, two, three, four, and five. So basically, a human being of this sort is having only four or five or six types of basic major emotions which are constantly present with him. All of these are very highly developed. So such a person who has a clear outline and has well defined colors and brilliant colors, and these colors denote higher qualities, such a person is showing that he has a highly developed astral body. Now, about the savage type, let's see what has been written by Sidhu. That a large portion of sensuality is there, deceit, selfishness, greed, fierce anger can be seen in this body here, and there is very little affection, and intellect and religious feeling exists of the lowest possible kind, selfish kind. The outline is irregular, colors are blurred, thick and heavy. So the whole body is evidently ill-regulated, confused, and uncontrolled. In the average person, this is the average person. In the average person, sensuality is much less, though still prominent. Selfishness is prominent. There is capability of deceit for personal lines. Green is beginning to divide into two distinct qualities, showing cunning, that is gradually becoming adaptability. Anger is still marked. Affection, intellect, devotion are prominent and of higher quality. The colors on the whole are more clearly defined and distinctly brighter, but though none of them are perfectly clear. The outline is more definite and regular. Now we come to the colors, and let's try to understand the colors. Just to give an idea, so blue is one of the colors which is blue, and there are very shades, a lot of shades of blue. What does blue indicate? It indicates religious feeling, as I said, devotion, and but this varies depending on the type of feeling. Meaning, if the devotion is light, if the devotion is of noble spiritual type, then the blue color becomes light blue. This marks devotion to a noble spiritual ideal. And if it gets a touch or tinge of violet or lilac in it and becomes luminous, then it becomes higher spirituality. It indicates a person is having devotion and also spiritual devotion, something which is going towards spirituality. It is not a selfish devotion that he goes to the deity, please help me out. I will give you this much of money, or I will do this bhandara, or I will do this thing in your name if my work is done through you. Like that. That is a selfish kind of devotion. No doubt there is some amount of devotion and trust and reverence in that person who is doing this kind of work, going to the temple and saying or trying to strike a bargain with the deity. even then there is some amount of devotion and some amount of blue will be seen in that person. But here, when we say there is a luminous lilac blue, then there is a devotion which has a lot of unselfishness and a higher type of devotion. And together you will find that there are sparkling golden stars which represent elevated spiritual aspirations. So here we have a devotional type of man, average devotional type of person. This is the astral body of an average devotional type of person. A common person, but of a devotional type. Now, see the Leadbeater, what he has done in the man visible and invisible. He has given two distinct types of human beings that he's talked about. One is the person who is more of a devotional type, and the other is more of a scientific type. Both are average people, but their natural temperament is of either of devotional or the scientific type. So, where there is a lot of devotional touch in that person, then the astral body has a different structure and different coloring. And when there is more of a scientific type, then it is having a different type. So, this is the scientific type of a human being that he is talking. So, we'll talk about both of them. Here we see in this devotional type of person that there is unusual development of the blue. This blue part we see here is what is the devotion. This is much more prominent here. And there is a faint touch of violet. Right at the top here we see. There is a faint touch of violet here, which implies the possibility of his response if he is presented with high ideal. But unfortunately, he writes that only a small proportion of blue light, pure light blue of unselfish devotion is there. The majority is dark blue, suggesting admixture of good deal of desire for personal gain through the devotion. Then there is very little amount of yellow color here. That he has very little intelligence to direct the devotion into reasonable channels, or to save him, or not to let him fall into small devotion. We have a lot of people who are devotional. We see this even now with this Mandir Masjid affair going on. We find people who are unable to rise above and tolerate the other person's devotional aspiration or this concept. The yellow is lacking in such people. They are unable to see, and that is the problem. And this marks this person who has a lot of devotion. He can be misled, brainwashed into doing many things for his deity, for personal ends. So if I were to brainwash somebody that you do this in the name of the god, you save the cow, kill the other person who is torturing the cow or killing the cow and eating the cow, you kill him. This is what you need to do. Kill a human being to save the cow so that your God will be pleased with you. And even if you are punished for that, you will still get reward in heaven. So if I brainwash such a person, that person, possibly such a person with low intellect, low yellow part, will be brainwashed very easily. Now he has a fair proportion of affection and adaptability, though not of a very high order, and the sensuality is manifested above the average. Deceit and selfishness are also very prominent. This green, brown, green, grey, all this is the lower part of the body, astral body, the ovoid, indicates the darker colors, the colors which are related with negative emotions, negative feelings, with selfishness, with greed, with deceit. So all this is there, and as we saw in the developed person, the lower portion was having pure green. This green was a refined green, hardly any brown, green, brown, gray color was seen here. Now, yellow indicates intellect, and if there is gold, that indicates pure intellect, which is applied to philosophy and mathematics. Orange indicates pride or ambition, often found with irritability. Rose color indicates unselfish love, and when it is tinged with lilac, then it is spiritual love for humanity. Crimson is dull and heavy, then it is selfish love. If there is red color, especially if there are deep red flashes on a background, on black background, then there is anger. If we have time today, I'll show you what is intense anger. Scarlet cloud is irritability. So, like this, we have a lot of things. Here in the scientific type of person, we see there is hardly any blue here. There is a lot of yellow and orangish in the upper part. So this is indicating person is of the intellectual type, the scientific type of person. Hardly any uh, devotion is there, affection is there. Let's see what they have written about it. So there is a large amount of golden yellow, showing well-developed intelligence, principally directed to the attainment of knowledge. We can find many such people amongst us who want to have knowledge, who are very much aspiring towards knowledge and gain. They are very highly intellectual people, and they might be having this kind of a thing at the top of their astral body. A huge cone of bright orange rising in the midst of it indicates the presence of much pride and ambition in connection with that knowledge. But still, the shade of yellow precludes the area that intellect is debased to merely selfish ends. There is no devotion here in this, what they have shown, and far less in the average amount of sensuality. Affection and adaptability are both somewhat small in quantity and poor in quality, with a good deal of selfishness and avarice, and a certain capacity of jealousy is also apparent. The scientific and orderly habit of mind has distinct influence upon the arrangement of the astral colors, and they tend to fall into regular bands, and the lines of demarcation between them are decidedly more definite than the devotional. At least in this type of a person, there are much more better demarcation between the colors. He is much more well organized, disciplined, and there is much more clearer outline as compared to the devotional type of person, in which things were merging with each other. The colors were merging with each other. Now we come to green color. It is quite common and it needs to be interpreted correctly. Mostly it indicates adaptability. If gray combines with green, then it is deceit and cunning. If it is just emerald green, then versatility, ingenuity, resourcefulness, and which is unselfish. So we have a lot of these. If you people want to read about this, you can read it in Astral Plane, Astral Body by Arthur Powell, or in Man Visible and Invisible. Both are given the same. I will not go too much as there is less time. Brown gray, I will just talk about. Brown gray, dull, hard brown gray is selfishness, one of the commonest colors in the astral body. Because right now, majority of the people are selfish in the world. Therefore, he writes that brown gray is the commonest color in the astral body. Now we come to the shape of the astral body. Although it is ovoid, we find that the colors which are indicating the various qualities, these colors, they indicate the qualities, and the qualities are manifested through the matter. So it is actually a luminosity of the matter which is shining as a color. So the color is actually just like a color is that matter which is illuminating itself. Let us say in this way to understand. So supposing I have a lot of devotion within me, that devotion will manifest in the astral matter as blue color or a shade of a blue color. But this matter is of seven types in the astral plane. We have already talked about it that the astral world has matter of 7 degrees of density. So the subtler matter will rise above the denser matter, just like solid in the physical plane will sink to the ground. Liquid will remain over the ground and the air will go above. So in the astral also, the subtler matter is found at the uppermost part of the astral body, the denser matter, which is made up of the selfish part of the person's qualities, is found more at the lower end of the astral body. If the selfish part of the person is much more in the astral body, then the person's astral body will have more matter of the selfish type, and the lower part of the astral body will become much more bigger than the upper part of the astral body, and such a person's astral body will be like an egg with the smaller end, the narrower end at the top, and the broader egg end at the bottom. So when we see an egg, although it is oval, but it is not equally oval. So there is a narrow end and there is a bigger end. So the oval will have the egg. In this case, the broader end will be at the lower part and the smaller end will be at the upper part in the case of a selfish person. In the case of a developed person, it will be the opposite. In the developed person, the person will have more and more unselfish qualities. Therefore, he will have matter more and more of the subtler type and less of the selfish type, so that his astral body will be like an egg. The ovoid will be like an egg with the smaller end downwards, and the upper end will be more of the broader type. So we will have the egg on the standing on the the smaller end. So this is how the shape of the astral body would be in the different types of persons. Now let's understand one more important point. Since the astral plane is having matter of 7 different densities, and the topmost 3 subplanes of the astral plane, or the matter of the topmost, the subtler 3 types of matter of the astral plane or the astral world, they have an impact on the causal body. Let me put it another way. The more unselfish feelings or emotions that I have, they will have an impact directly on my causal body, because the causal body is in direct touch or under the direct influence of the unselfish feelings that I generate. So, what will happen in the developed person, or in a person who is deliberately trying to create or change his character, develop virtues, try to improve himself, or as our senior member, Brother I.K. Temeni, used to say, who's trying to do self culture, then such a person would be developing unselfish feelings and emotions. Then what he is actually doing is that he is directly impacting the causal body or the higher self just by this work. So here C.W. Leadbeater says, high unselfish affection and devotion belong to the highest astral subplane, and these reflect themselves in the corresponding matter of the mental plane. Thus, they touch the causal or the higher mental body. This is an important point of which the student should take a special note. The ego, who resides on the higher mental plane, is thus affected only by unselfish thoughts. The second point for us to consider from here is that if in the causal body, if there are gaps, meaning there are areas which are not colored, not developed, then what happens is that these areas, they are not reflected in the ego, and because of that, in the personality, because of that, the personality has several defects, or the personality has selfishness filling up these areas. So if the person, here they have written, selfishness, for example, would show itself as an absence of affection or sympathy. As soon as selfishness is replaced by its opposite, the gap in the causal body will be filled up. So this is another way of saying the same thing, that if we want to develop our causal body, that means accelerate our evolution, then what we need to do is to develop or fill up the colors of the astral body, or the material of the astral body, or the qualities in the astral body. And doing that, we will help the building up of the causal body. So through the astral body, by means of the astral body, changing the astral body, we would directly affect the causal body also. Now, let us quickly go. We have just 4 5 minutes, and let us see sudden emotions. And here we can see there is a sudden rush of emotion. I think I will only cover this today. There is sudden, if there is a sudden rush of emotion, so um, let's read about this. That will be much better. So this is from Man Visible and Invisible. Some of these produce these sudden emotions. Some, this is chapter 16. Some of these produce most striking results in the astral body, results which are well worth careful study. And it should be premised that every one of the illustrations in this book is drawn from life, meaning it's not imaginary. What they have seen, they have drawn. They are the result not of imagination but of observation and careful reproduction. So, when a sudden wave of strong and perfectly pure affection sweeps over a person, for example, they have chosen the example that a mother, she has a sudden rush of emotion for her baby and covers it with kisses. Then what happens to the astral body of the mother? In that moment, the astral body is thrown into violent agitation, and the original colors of the astral body are lost. And now, if we analyze this change which is there, what do we see? So, what we see is this. This is what we see. You see, we have already seen the astral body, but now what do we see? We see an ovoid with these different types of shapes happening. What has happened? There is the person inside. There is a structure of a human being inside. But what has happened to the others? So gross change has happened. If we could see, if supposing today our consciousness was to be elevated, or could see the astral plane, and we could see somebody like this, what would we interpret? We are not trained seers. So what would we see? So what they're saying, the four things which happen here in the astral body. Certain coils or vortices of vivid color are seen, well defined and solid. I'm going a little bit fast, please, so that you can read later on. With the intense light from within. Each of these is in reality a thought form of intense affection. These are the coils. These are the coils. Intense affection generated within the astral body, about to be poured forth from it towards the object of the feeling. So the mother, in the mother's astral body, these multiple points of affection all throughout the astral body have been generated, and they're going to rush towards the baby. And when they rush towards the baby, what will happen is this. This is the rushing. In, I think, the previous talk on this, I had shown this as a thought form, which was a well-defined affectionate thought form towards an object. So the object was well defined. So this is like a comet. This is like a bullet. It's like a missile which is being sent from this person who is having this intense affectionate emotion towards, so the mother towards the child. So supposing the child is here, these multiple bullets, multiple comets will go towards the child and impact the astral body of the child. So, so one of these very coils, as it flew through the air on the way to its goal, will become a projectile somewhat resembling the head of a comet. This is what we will see. The whole astral body is crossed by horizontal pulsating lines of crimson light. We can see crimson light. A kind of film of rose color covers the surface of the whole astral body, and the fourth thing which happens is that the sort of crimson flush, crimson means reddish, flush filling the entire astral body, tinging to some extent all the other hues. So all the other hues, like you can see here, bluish here. Blue will be also affected by the reddish color, the affection. The yellow will be affected by the reddish color. If there was some violet, it will be affected by the reddish color. The green will be affected by the reddish color. All this will be affected. Even if there was selfishness of brown and green and gray, all these will be affected. So this is how it is going to affect. This magnificent display of astral fireworks of this intense emotion, sudden intense emotion, usually lasts only a few seconds. And then the body rapidly resumes its normal condition. But what happens? It adds a little to the crimson in the higher part of the oval. This mother will now become much more capable of love. More of this matter would have been added onto the astral body, and it will become easier for the particles of the astral body to respond to the next wave of affection when it comes. The effects are cumulative, meaning every time she will have this affectionate event, more and more of her astral body will start developing matter of the, or start collecting matter of the loving kind, this crimson, rose, red, pink color type of matter within her astral body. She will become more and more affectionate overall. It will become part of her normal nature. So another thing which here CW led me to say is should not be forgotten is that good influence upon others will be given, which is produced by the radiation of vivid vibrations of love and joy. We read last time that whenever there is a thought or a desire form coming, there is a radiation, just like our sound is being radiated to everyone around us. Similarly, this love and joy will radiate to each and every person who is there nearby and will be affected by this. One who sends a thought of intense affection to another actually gives something of himself. That a certain portion of astral matter passes from him to that loved one. So, in this case, mother to the child, actually, the mother is giving a part of the astral matter, good astral matter to the child, charged so strongly that it cannot fail to set in the astral body of the recipient, of the baby, swinging in the harmony with. So it is going to affect the child. Though the child may or may not even feel it, but the astral body of the child will be impacted strongly and will be impacted in a positive way. That means that the love tends to kindle love, and therefore, that to love a person is definitely to make him a better man than he would otherwise be. So, we have actually crossed the time. I had uh, I was thinking I would be able to cover. This is intense, sudden, intense affection, sudden. The same thing will happen if there is devotion, like in the monastery or some place, some person is having an intense devotion. Like in case of if we have a devotion towards a guru and there is intense devotion, then this instead of that comet thing, this is the structure which will go in the blue color. Then this is anger, black, dark. So this is the anger part. So we have so many miser, irritability, depression, all these are there. So I was thinking we'd be able to do it, but maybe next time or some other time we'll be able to do it. So I'll close today's uh, talk with this, and back to you, Mataji.
Thank you, Rajiv, for very nice and clear explanation and continuation of the astral world. Now, if anybody want to say something or he has any question, please unmute and say. किसी ने कुछ कहना है तो प्लीज अनम्यूट करके बोलो.
राजीव जी, माथुर जी
हाँ बोलिए.
और गुप्ता जी ने बहुत ही सही ढंग से जो एस्ट्रल वर्ल्ड है जिसके बारे में अभी उन्होंने वक्तव्य दिया है, और ये सारी चीजें अगर हम ध्यान में रखते हुए अगर व्यवहार करते हैं तो बहुत सारी गलतियां हमसे नहीं होगी. तो थियोसॉफी के विद्यार्थी को एस्ट्रल वर्ल्ड और जो हमारा ऑरा है उसमें आने वाले चेंजेस है, जिसके कैटलॉग, जिनके चित्र वगैरह गुप्ता जी ने पेश किए हैं, इस पर अगर गौर करें तो हमें ही हमारा डर लगने लगे कि इस तरह से हमारा ऑरा दूषित होता है. तो बहुत सारी चीजों पे ऑटोमेटिक हम नियंत्रण कर सकते हैं. अगर क्रोध आता है तो किस तरह से हम दूषित हो जाते हैं. और उन्होंने एक बात कही कि अगर हम बहुत क्रोधी है तो हमारे अगल बगल में भी उसका रेडिएशन या परिणाम होता है. तो अगर हम बहुत गुस्से में हैं या बहुत ही डिप्रेस्ड है तो जिस घर में हम हैं, जिस परिवार में, वो सारा परिवार उससे अफेक्ट हो सकता है, ऑफिस अफेक्ट हो सकता है. तो स्वयं नियंत्रण के लिए यह अभ्यास अत्यंत आवश्यक है. राजीव जी बहुत धन्यवाद. गुप्ता जी आपने बहुत ही अच्छी सरल ढंग से उसको पेश किया है. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू लोखंडे.
थैंक यू लोखंडे जी. और किसी ने कुछ शेयर करना है?
नमस्कार राजीव जी, अमेजिंग लेक्चर. शब्द नहीं है प्रशंसा के. बस एक प्रश्न पूछना था आपसे कि जो हमारे विबग्योर के कलर हैं, वॉयलेट, इंडिगो, ब्लू, ग्रीन, येलो, ऑरेंज, रेड, वो तो रहते हैं क्योंकि वो फीलिंग को हमारे मूलाधार चक्र, स्वादिष्ठान, मणिपुर, अनाहत, विशुद्धा और आज्ञा चक्र, सहस्रार चक्र में वो रहते हैं. लेकिन आपने जो बात की है एस्ट्रल बॉडी की, क्या उसमें हर इमोशंस के अलग अलग कलर्स रहते हैं? एक ही एस्ट्रल बॉडी में हर इमोशंस के कलर रहते हैं? और दूसरी बात, आपने एक बात कही कि जो एस्ट्रल बॉडी के जो सटलर मैटर हैं वो कॉजल बॉडी को इफेक्ट करते हैं. और थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी के लिटरेचर में ये भी लिखा है कि जब हमारी फिजिकल बॉडी प्यूरिफाई होती है तो आत्मिक लेवल को प्यूरिफाई करती है, जब एस्ट्रल बॉडी प्यूरिफाई होती है तो बुद्धिक लेवल को प्यूरिफाई करती है, और लोअर मेंटल हायर मेंटल को प्यूरिफाई करता है. तो मेरी एक जिज्ञासा है कि क्या ये एस्ट्रल बॉडी के सटलर, फाइनर, गुड मैटर, मतलब तीनों बॉडी को, यानी जो हमारी कॉजल बॉडी है वो तो तीनों है, ट्रायड है, तीनों बॉडी को प्रभावित करती है कि पर्टिकुलर एक ही बॉडी को प्रभावित करती है? ये प्रश्न है. लेकिन आपका जो व्याख्यान था वो अद्भुत था, अद्भुत था. इसमें बहुत अध्ययन की जरूरत है. तो बस एक छोटा से प्रश्न का जवाब दे दीजिए.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सुषमा जी. हमारा आपके जो सवाल है कि कलर्स जो हैं वो तो है ही है एसल बॉडी की. जो जैसे हमारा शरीर का है, हमारे शरीर में तो एक ही कलर है जो हमारे फिजिकल बॉडी का. तो जो भी कलर है, अगर हम डार्क कलर है तो डार्क कलर रहता है. तो तो वो तो हमारा कलर होता है फिजिकल बॉडी. मगर एस्ट्रल बॉडी के अंदर जो कलर्स हैं वो अलग अलग कलर्स फैले हुए होते हैं. इस पे डिपेंडेंट होते हैं कि एस्ट्रल बॉडी का स्ट्रक्चर जो बना है वो फीलिंग्स और इमोशन से बना हुआ है. तो वो फीलिंग्स और इमोशन जिस प्रकार की होंगी उसी प्रकार के कलर उसके अंदर मौजूद होंगे. तो अगर मेरे अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा डिवोशन है तो वो डिवोशन वाला ब्लू कलर मेरे अंदर होगा एस्ट्रल बॉडी के अंदर. अगर मेरे अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा ग्रीड है या बहुत ज़्यादा मेरे अंदर एक सेल्फिशनेस है तो ब्राउन कलर, जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना, जो ब्राउन कलर है वो काफ़ी रहेगा. अगर मैं बहुत डिप्रेशन में रहता हूँ तो ग्रे कलर बहुत रहेगा. और अगर मैं बहुत ज़्यादा इंटेलेक्चुअल आदमी हूँ तो येलो कलर ज़्यादा होगा. मगर सारे कलर्स कुछ ना कुछ मात्रा में तो होते हैं क्योंकि हमारे अंदर काफ़ी कुछ फीलिंग्स तो होती हैं अलग अलग प्रकार की। तो 5-7 प्रकार की फीलिंग्स या पाँच सात प्रकार के इमोशंस कॉन्स्टेंटली हम लोग के अंदर रहते हैं। जैसे जैसे व्यक्ति डेवलप होते चले जाता है वो और रिफाइन होते चले जाते हैं। मगर लेडबीटर साहब ने और बाकी लोगों ने भी कहा है और एस्ट्रल बॉडी में लिखा है, अनडेवलप्ड पर्सन, अनकल्चर्ड पर्सन के अंदर तो 50 से 100 प्रकार के ऐसे अलग अलग वॉटिसेस या बॉयल्स या वेरिएशन चलते रहते हैं। बहुत कुछ चलता रहता है, मैं उसको आज कवर नहीं कर पाया। और जैसे व्यक्ति और रिफाइन होता है और डेवलप होता है और कल्चर्ड होता है तो उसकी असल बॉडी के अंदर ये जो डिस्टर्बेंसेस होते हैं बहुत सारे कलर्स की, वो कम होती चली जाती है और 8 से 10 से 12 तक रह जाती है। और जैसे और डेवलप होता है तो 5 से 7 तक रह जाती है। ये कलर्स का मिक्सचर एस्ट्रल प्लेन पे लेडबीटर साहब कहते हैं ज़्यादा है, क्योंकि वहाँ पे जो कलर्स की वैरायटी है वो और भी ज़्यादा है, जो फिजिकल मैटर में हमें दिखाई देती है उससे बहुत ज़्यादा है। तो उसके वेरिएशन, उसके जो मिक्सचर्स हैं उसके बारे में वो कहते हैं हम यहाँ बता नहीं सकते। तो जैसे ब्लू कलर बोला, ब्लू में बहुत वेरिएशन है, तो इसलिए वो कहते हैं कि हम कलर्स आपको मोटा मोटा बता रहे हैं ताकि आप उसको समझ लीजिए कि क्या बात हो रही है। तो ये तो हो गया कलर्स की बात। तो आपने जो दूसरी बात कही कि हमारा जो फिजिकल है वो आत्मिक से कनेक्टेड है, प्योरीफाई वर्ड नहीं है, कनेक्शन है। मतलब कि एक लाइन ऑफ कनेक्शन फिजिकल बॉडी से आत्मिक बॉडी तक है। जैसे एक रास्ता है, एक सुरंग है फिजिकल बॉडी से आत्मिक बॉडी तक। एक रास्ता है हमारी एस्ट्रल बॉडी से बुद्धिक बॉडी तक, और एक रास्ता है हमारी लोअर मेंटल बॉडी से हायर मेंटल बॉडी तक। तो ये रास्तों के माध्यम से हम जो है लोअर सेल्फ से हायर सेल्फ का जो समाधि वाला जो ट्रांसफर है, कॉन्शियसनेस चेतना का जो ट्रांसफर है, वो कर सकते हैं इन रास्तों के माध्यम से। तो ये रास्ते दिए हुए हैं। तो ये यहाँ पे ये इसका मतलब है। तीसरी बात जो हमने करी इसके अंदर कि एस्ट्रल बॉडी जो है उसके जो हायर जो एटॉमिक सबप्लेन है और जो बाकी जो ऊपर के 2-3 लेवल्स हैं वो डायरेक्ट इन टच होते हैं कॉजल बॉडी से। तो इनका इम्पैक्ट कॉजल बॉडी के ऊपर पड़ता है, और जैसे इनका इम्पैक्ट कॉजल बॉडी पे पड़ता है तो कॉजल बॉडी के अंदर ग्रोथ होनी चालू होती है। जब कॉजल बॉडी में ग्रोथ हो, हमने बॉडी की बात करी, कॉजल बॉडी
जी
की जो ग्रोथ है वो ही ईगो की भी ग्रोथ मानी जाती है। अब ईगो
जी
क्योंकि 3 से बना
जी
है, आत्मिक बॉडी,
जी
बुद्धिक बॉडी
जी
और कॉजल बॉडी से। तो ईगो की जो ग्रोथ है, जो उसकी क्वालिटीज हैं, उनके अंदर जब ग्रोथ होती है तो धीरे धीरे जो हमारी बुद्धिक बॉडी और हमारी आत्मिक बॉडी है उनके अंदर भी ग्रोथ होनी चालू होती है, डिपेंडिंग कौन सी क्वालिटीज की बात करी गई। अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल हम लेते हैं डिवोशन। डिवोशन या भक्ति अगर व्यक्ति में काफ़ी हद तक अनसेल्फिश स्पिरिचुअल टेंच के साथ में अगर डेवलप हो रही है तो वो कॉजल बॉडी के अंदर वो चेंज लेके आएगी। जैसे ही कॉजल बॉडी में चेंज आएगा तो बुद्धिक बॉडी को भी अफेक्ट होना चालू हो जाएगा। एक मैं जनरल रूल आपको बता देता हूँ, आपने ज़रूर पढ़ा हो किताबों के अंदर, कि हमारी एस्ट्रल बॉडी के अंदर एस्ट्रल बॉडी को इम्पैक्ट कौन करता है? फिजिकल बॉडी, जो उसके नीचे वाली बॉडी है उसमें जो असर होगा,
जी
जो उसके अंदर चेंजेस हैं, और जो ऊपर वाली बॉडी है उसकी लोअर मेंटल बॉडी। लोअर मेंटल बॉडी में जो कोई चेंज आएगा, कोई फर्क आएगा तो वो एस्ट्रल बॉडी पे धक्का पड़ेगा। फिजिकल बॉडी में कोई चेंज आएगा तो वो भी एस्ट्रल बॉडी पे धक्का देगा। तो जो बॉडी के ऊपर वाली बॉडी और नीचे वाली बॉडी, इनमें जब भी कोई चेंजेस आते हैं तो उस बॉडी पे इम्पैक्ट करते हैं। ऐसे ही जब कॉजल बॉडी में इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है तो फिर बुद्धिक बॉडी पे भी असर पड़ता है। और कुछ अगर ऐसा डेवलपमेंट हो रही है, जैसे विल पावर की डेवलपमेंट, करेज की, फियरलेसनेस की, वो डेवलप हो रही है बहुत ज़्यादा, तो वो कॉजल बॉडी से सीधा उसका इम्पैक्ट फिर आत्मिक बॉडी पे भी पड़ेगा। इस तरीके से ओवरऑल ग्रोथ जो है वो ईगो की होगी, कॉजल बॉडी के माध्यम से होगी।
थैंक यू सो मच। ये मेरे प्रश्न समझ में आ गया कि जितना भी सेवेज पीपल है या अनडेवलप्ड है तो उसके एस्ट्रल बॉडी में बहुत ढेर सारे कलर्स रहते हैं, और जैसे जैसे प्यूरिफिकेशन होता है हमारे इमोशंस का, वैसे वैसे कलर्स की संख्या कम होती है, और तभी वो और जो कलर्स होते हैं वो भी वो फाइनर इमोशंस को लिए हुए होते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच। अभी बहुत अध्ययन करने को बाकी है, और बहुत आपने जिज्ञासा शांत की। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद
बहुत
राजीव
बहुत
जी।
धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू सुषमा जी, थैंक यू डॉक्टर राजीव। और किसी का अगर क्वेश्चन नहीं है तो अब हम इसको क्लोज करेंगे। नेक्स्ट टाइम हमारा टॉक है थॉट पावर एंड इट्स इन्फ्लुएंस, और ब्रदर श्याम सिंह गौतम नेशनल लेक्चरर लेंगे। 11 जून 2022 समय यही रहेगा। अब हम लोग प्रेयर करते हैं। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, न कश्चित् दुःख